Do you like driftwood? I mean, do you like driftwood? I do. Ever since I can remember, if there's been an interesting stick, pick it up, take it with you. I kind of think that's a common childhood thing, and many of us don't outgrow that stick love. But driftwood is especially exciting because that's a stick that's been on an adventure. It's been on the high seas. It could have come from another country. Perhaps it was swirled in the deep and a dolphin played with it. You don't know where it's been and what it's done. But by the time it washes back up on shore, it's kind of pretty looking with its graininess and swirls and such, except for the ones that are boring. But there's a lot of really good looking driftwoods. So after the storms here on Maui, we get storms in the wintertime, and they kick up a lot of debris. Once everything kind of settled down, it was time to go to my favorite little driftwood finding space. I really love this little beach. Well, as you can see, it's not really a beach. It is the edge of like a harbor area in Kahului, Maui. And for some reason, this particular rocky area is just in the right spot for driftwood to get pushed up whenever there's big swells. And so as you can see, there was a lot to pick from. And I really just wanted to pick the very best ones. So I think I did. All right, so I brought all my sticks back, dried them out in the sun, made sure there was no living creatures in there that needed to go somewhere else. There weren't. Everything was good. And now it's time to make something out of them. Sometimes I just hold on to the sticks for a while until an idea presents itself. But I had an idea already on what I wanted to do, and that was to create sort of a sculptural thing. So I did a little sketch, and you can see that I had the idea of, have a driftwood here, and it's got some sort of sea creature-y face and maybe holding shell necklace or something. That's where I started. So we'll see where it goes. So this is part one of taking that driftwood and turning it into a thing. It's going to be fun. All right, so normally I would maybe drill a hole in here to make sure they go in easily, but I think I'm just going to screw them in. I think this wood is soft enough. Actually, it's pretty tough wood. Now, I'm not going to screw it in all the way. I want to make sure it's get a really firm grab into the wood, but then I'm going to let it stick out so that it can really be grabbed into the epoxy clay. That seems stable, and I'll do the same with the other. I often use foil, kind of make a nice base or armature. I'm just putting a few random rocks in there for weight, and I'm thinking what I'm going to do is sort of recreate the look of a lava rock, kind of like this, but I'm here on Maui, and lava rocks stay on the island, so I don't want to incorporate that as a base, because they stay here. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to make this foil version here that I'll cover with epoxy clay and then push that into and then turn that into the look of lava rock. Easy breezy. Gonna make it like a little pancake here so that I can wrap it around this. So I've got it on a non-stick surface, and it's on a nice hard tile, so that's nice and stable. I want to add this by pressing it in and pushing it deep down into that surface. Now I've got some of these little opihi shells. These are a great shell here in Maui and on the rest of the Hawaiian Islands, but they're just so pretty. And I thought I'd make quite a few of them all around, and then use my various ball-tipped tools, this texture here. Now, since these are hollow shells, what I like to do is I like to get some clay inside them just to kind of give them some stability so they don't, if somebody accidentally pushes on it or something, it won't crush. I'm going to put a little bit of those around here and then start making the texture. All of the texturing is done, but I really want to make sure that it's got a similar feel to this, because this has got kind of a weathered look, and some of the lava rock is much more shiny, of course. But I have a bunch of pan pastels, and I'm actually going to take some of these and add a little bit onto the surface and see if I can get that whole surface to look like this. See? Just made like a little twisted wire with a loop here, so I can use this to attach it to the wood. So I'm gonna have the arms come off of here, so this will be my arm armature. So I have a plan. I think the hands are going to come like this. And I'll probably put some foil on these when I get to that part to give them a little bit more thickness, so I don't have to cover so much of it with the clay. The foil will do some of that work. So my theory is that I'm going to use my epoxy clay to attach all of this together, and then I'm going to use these lovely little operculum shells that I have to create like a, almost like a sleeve, or I don't even know what you would call it, just a transition between the wood and the body and the what will become fake wood of the arm. So I'm going to start with just sort of putting this sleeve of epoxy clay on here, and I've talked about I'm using epoxy sculpt, and I've talked about that before. It's a two-part thing, and you mix it together, which I've done already, and then I have about an hour work time to play with, and I think I'll start there. Now I'm already feeling as I put this on here that this is not grabbing super well to the wood. I mean, I knew that it wouldn't. That's why I went through all the effort of making all this other stuff, and that it actually can grab a hold of. So now I'll just do this side first. And what I've got is operculum. Operculum are the little trapdoors that mollusks make to hide behind, and they have a side that's got like a spiral on it, the flat side, which is so cool, and I really love those. But then it's got this rounded side, and I find those to be really fun as well. So I think I'm going to mostly use this rounded side, but maybe I'll go back and forth if I find one that's particularly spirally. And you see what I'm doing is I'm just pressing, using my pickup tool, which has got like a wax tip on it, to bring it into place, and then I'm pushing it on. You have to push it in enough so that it really sticks, and I'm trying to not have a big space like that. I have a plan for some of those spaces, but I'm really trying to make sure that there's minimal of spaces in between everything. I'm especially making sure that when I get to these edges that I am having enough of a grab onto the clay, but that part of it is sticking over, you see that? And that way it can grab onto the clay, the epoxy clay, really well, but transition over onto that edge. So now I'm going to use some of the small stuff that I have to fill in the gaps. I'm going to get some powder to kind of make the contrast, but we're going to turn this other wood into, or the other epoxy into the look of wood. So I'm going to do that a little bit where there is epoxy showing. That way, if I put the powder on there, it's already going to have that driftwood feel. So I'm coming with my various tools, and I'm going to just start making texture that feels wood-ish. So I'm going to start with bigger lines, and then I'll make some more finer lines and just try to get that looking believable. And it's just going to fade here because then I'll add more clay to make this continue on the rest of the arm later. But for now, we're doing this. And I also am getting anything that's, you know, connected here to the main part. I'm just kind of smoothing down and blending it in so it doesn't look blobby by that connection spot. That's kind of important, I think. Okay, so now it's ready for powder. So I'm using pan pastels. They're my powder of choice. And it's going to go all over in between all of those guys, and just make sure that they look driftwoody underneath. And you can see why I did the base and allowed it to dry before I moved on to the next step. You just need that stability there while you do all this other fun stuff. So on a project like this, I've usually got multiple things going because I want to do, you know, this whatever step I'm on in this one, and then let it dry while I go do other things, other creative things. All right, so let's see what we've got here. So we've got very believable looking growth from this main trunk with his almost like decoration. And then this is going to turn into the arms, but I'm just going to let that dry. But let's get up close, and you can just kind of see how we're mimicking the look of driftwood. Okay, I'm going to stop there for now. I know you can't wait to see what happens next. As can I. I can't wait to see what happens next either. I have an idea in my head, but you can see we've already deviated from that original sketch. And I've made the arms more outstretched. We'll see what happens next. but I have a feeling it's going to be fun. So that was part 1. I'll bring you part 2 when I get the next bits done. And in the meantime, happy creating yourself. Find a good stick and do something fun with it. Why not?